A little bit of Souls with Amador here from Soul Healing Tribe, and today I want to talk about John Mack. John Mack was a psychiatrist in Harvard, professor. He was a tenured professor, and he did a lot of work with people, clients, his patients that experience alien adoptions. So I became really fascinated with this guy when I started going really deep into the alien situation, especially as more and more clients were coming with many of these issues. So I started diving really deep, and he was definitely, his credibility was on point. This is a psychiatrist, Harvard professor, and he was next level. So let me pull up a video that I have here. Is there anything else that I want to share about him? I think what I want you to know is that this person, John Mack, got interested. I believe I have read some of the books, and I don't know why I'm blanking out, but he became interested out of, it was just something that happened out of nowhere. And he wanted, I think he was very doubtful. And some people even said that he was very, like at a face value type of person when he came to the alien abductions, because I think at the beginning he probably thought that these people were crazy. But the more that he researched and regressed them, because the technique that he used, he didn't use traditional psychiatry methods to work with these clients and the research. He used regression work. He did regression to regress the people, just like I do, to regress the people to experiences where obviously the problem was the beginning of this relationship with these people were, right? So let's see. I want you to hear from him some of these things. Again, he used regression work. So he used similar techniques, but he didn't believe in the spirituality at the beginning. He didn't believe in the bigger things out there. Towards the end of his career, though, he really became a believer, because the more that he did this work and the more that he researched, he knew there was something out there. And one of the things that he said in one of the interviews back in 1996, that when I think that was definitely one of the first major public interviews, is that they were questioning him. And one of the things that he said, these people are seeing this craft is being recorded in the local news sometimes, these experiences. So if it's being recorded from the physical perspective, and these people then are regressed and they see how they go through experiences that are hidden from the subconscious, then there has to be another level here. There has to be more than this reality. And I think that's when he really started opening up. He also was working a lot with he became a colleague with, what is his name? I think he's in the interview, Bob Hawkins, and UFOlogist. And I think that also, expanded a little bit his consciousness for him to understand, like, oh my goodness, like this is actually happening at another dimension. So he didn't have the spiritual aspect, but he had credibility. He was a psychiatrist. He was a professor at Harvard. He had the reputation for people to hear him. So he basically really did a lot of work. A lot of other psychiatrists and psychologists and other people were doing work with dark forces and like understanding the dark forces and the negative voices and all of that. But John Mack, what he did was that he opened up for a lot of people the idea of these alien abductions affect the person not only at the spiritual level, because a lot of that work is being done in other dimensions, and because it's done in other dimensions, initially he thought then it probably doesn't affect the physical. But the more that he did this work, he became aware, and he wrote a lot of books. One of them is Abductions. Another one was like Passport to the Cosmos. I don't remember the title, but you can look it up, John E. Mack, and you can find his books. So let me see if I can share my screen. And I want you to hear this from him directly.
I want to thank Chris for taking this on and being willing to show up here in Boston and with a couple of disreputable characters like Bud and me, and shows his courage and his pioneering spirit. I also want to express my appreciation to Bud for, I don't know if I really feel this way actually. I'm not so sure I am appreciative that he introduced me to this field. I mean, it's been a lot of trouble actually. But I have deep fondness and admiration for his pioneering role and spirit in this. What I'd like to see happen here tonight is that we really deepen some questions. I happen to be very interested in the reality question, or the ontological question as it's formally called in philosophy, and I hope to arouse and deepen your curiosity about all of this. Now, what happened to me with Bud is that somebody asked if I wanted to meet him. This was the fall of 1989, and I'd never heard of him. And they said, well, he's this guy that works with people who think they've been taken by aliens into spacecraft. And I said, he must be crazy if he believes that, and this must be some new form of psychosis. Well, I had a couple of free hours, and I went to see him, and I liked him. He seemed sincere. He didn't seem crazy at all. And he was telling me about people who were telling stories that they didn't believe themselves, that they were questioning. They sounded like pretty healthy people, which I've seen now worked intensively with about 130 of these people, is that the stories are consistent. They are described with intense feeling, appropriate self-doubt. They are shocked when they hear other people have had the same experiences because that tends to affirm that it's real. They have nothing to gain by this. And they don't seem to fall into any category whatsoever. And as I've gone more deeply into this, this is held up. Now, the fact that what they are describing isn't possible in our reality is not my fault. You then have a choice of trying to stretch what you might consider to be possible at that point. First, you have the event level element. Now, I believe overall, this is a phenomenon of enormous complexity, meaning, and value for understanding of ourselves, who we are in the universe, and we're just beginning to grasp what this is about. So there aren't really answers here tonight, just deepening questions. First is the event level aspect. This is the sort of traumatic part, this mixture of subjective and objective elements that have to do with the intrusive rape-like aspect for some people. The physical evidence is there, it's part of the picture, and it works together with the subjective evidence to create this picture. The trauma is not just what has happened, it's also what I call ontological shock. In other words, to the person having that experience, this is no more possible for them than it is for us. So we struggle together with that question. The second important element, in my perspective, is the information that occurs, and a great deal of this does have to do with the ecological aspect. In other words, the showing of the images, panorama of the planet destroyed, vast pollution, the earth destroyed on television-like monitors, through the eyes, in voice, in mind-to-mind communication by the beings, and this has an enormous impact on the consciousness of the individuals. And so much so that it affects deeply their choices in their lives, and I do believe this is not just deception, but I believe it's an important part of the phenomenon itself, and I see this in case after case. Next, you have what I call the spiritual aspect of this phenomenon. This is the sense that people have that they're somehow being open to source, returning to their what they call home with a capital H, the spiritual origin of all that is. And they feel that they are brought closer to that. And many experiencers feel that that's a fundamental part of this experience, that they're brought closer to the depth of being, the Godhead, whatever you want to call it.
I do want to say something about that. Sometimes, especially, I think in some of his books, he talks about people, and some of these people have positive experience. It's not always negative. I want to make that clear. Now, even on the negative side, you will still have, when you come in contact with these beings that have more consciousness of the cosmos, and because maybe you haven't been doing your work, so you haven't really opened up all of your chakras. They might be vibrating at 30% capacity instead of 70% or whatever it is. When you come in contact with these beings, because of their consciousness is rotating at such a high speed, they activate yours even when it's a negative experience. So you go into a trance and you experience things that are beyond this reality. So it can feel so overwhelming, and depending on the work that you have been doing with your chakras and the heart space and all of that, you can really tap in that moment to other experiences that are just like, whoa. So even when people come in contact with an energy that is trying to trick them, like for research purposes or to cause harm, they will still activate, and they might even activate some chakras to the point that you can go into a spiritual awakening that is very harsh because it happened and you were not prepared. I see a lot of clients for that because they go through such an awakening that is like, oh my God, what is happening with me? I'm going crazy. So I want you to keep that in mind. I'm gonna let you listen for a couple of minutes, but you can definitely go to this channel here, Eyes on Cinema, and listen to the whole interview. Look into John Mack if you're interested in aliens and alien abductions and how it affects your life. Also the ufology, But Hawkins, it's going to really open you to the consequences. And sometimes people think this only happens to people that have seen the craft. This happens to people even in the dream state. Even when you're dreaming and you have situations with aliens, that means you already have a a determined experience that happened sometime, whatever dimension, in another life or in this life, in childhood, whenever it was. That means you already have a communication system open with these beings. If you have mysterious blocks, that might be the reason why. I'm not saying that that's the only reason, but it could be part of the reason. So
there's different language for this. Here's one young woman's way of describing this. She said, I think Source's purpose for letting that happen, that is allowing the aliens to come, is to bring back memory of us, of Source, to empower ourselves. I think it's almost like a baby going from crawling to walking and realizing that I am. That's what I think Source's reason for this, I am. And a fourth element, which is, again, something where I think Bud and I differ, is the relationship between, and there is not one type of alien perceived. The most common of these grays with the big black eyes, which I'd never heard of when I started this work, but there are also various other kinds of beings. And Bud sees the relationship.
He's just talking about the different type of aliens and the purposes. And that is something that we also learn in the dream regression technique, because in the dream regression technique, we talk a lot about spirit attachments, including aliens implants, the purposes, the researchers, the ones that are doing, they don't have the best intentions, the ones that have the best intention for you, and so on. So this is a very fascinating topic. I really hope that you look into John Mack if you're interested in anything that has to do with aliens and alien abductions, including Bud Hawkins, if you're interested in alien implants and how it affects our physical, spiritual, mental, emotional planes, and so much more. So I'm going to leave it here for now, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Thank you.